24 NCAC. Oh, all right. Thanks, Jeff. Welcome to the April 13th, 2022 NCAC meeting. The agenda has, it looks like, 13 items, 12 really on it today. And so it's another full agenda. And we'll go ahead and get started with appointing the parliamentarian. And I see Michael. Michael, are you you're willing to do that this morning?
Yes, sir, I am. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. For the officers, conflict of interest question related to today's agenda, and action items, which I don't see any action items, discussion only, but I have no conflicts. Chris and Alex. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, Chris, I have no conflicts as well.
This is Alex. I have no conflicts.
And this is Jeff, and I have no conflicts.
Okay. Let's see. Got the wrong date. I've got the February, the last meeting, which was in February, meeting minutes. Are there any corrections to the minutes from anybody?
No, none from me.
Okay. All right. If none are offered, then I'm just gonna, since none have been offered, I'm just gonna say that there being no further corrections, the minutes stand approved. We'll move on to the treasurer's report, Chris.
Yeah, pretty simple report this period. No change in our account balance since our February meeting. So the balance remains at $635. At our February meeting, we discussed the reimbursable technology costs that the county had talked about a year or two ago. Since I wasn't sure how far back the county would reimburse, I went ahead and accumulated all the costs and support since 2020, which came to be around $2,000. And then I provided that support to Mark, who then passed it on to the county. So I'm not sure where it's at now, but any update, Mark?
No, Chris, but we normally meet, the CAC chairs in the county meet normally the first Tuesday, but we did not meet in April, but I'll certainly follow up with Sarah on that.
Okay, great, thanks.
Yes, thanks.
And that's it for me.
Okay, thanks, Chris. Let's see, notices from Tillamook County, Jeff.
Okay, so we had a busy period this time. A quick thing, a previous notice where someone had requested a variance where they could put up a shed or something on Schutzingen Road that was approved. If you're interested in learning more about that, and you want to appeal it or something because you live near there, there's a link on the homepage, the NCAC or the NESCO NCAC homepage to look at that. More of interest, and maybe Guy can help me out here. There's a ordinance proposed, and the Planning Commission already held a hearing, hence Guy, that is something along the lines of the ordinance is suggesting that within rural residential 2-acre and 10-acre zones, making permissions to use recreational vehicles as accessory dwelling units. And if this is perking up your ears, definitely again visit the NESCO and CAC homepage and look at the ordinance yourself, because I'm probably not giving a very good summary. But the most pertinent thing is if you do have an interest in this and you want to speak to the county about it, there's a hearing, like a Board of County Commissioners hearing on the 17th. So that's this week.
Okay.
That's it.
Thanks, Jeff. I think I'll go ahead and acknowledge that Sarah Absher, the Community Development Coordinator for Tillamook County, is present here today. Welcome, Sarah.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you.
Yeah.
It's nice to see you all.
Yeah. And also Doug Olson, County Commissioner, is joining us this morning. Welcome, Doug, and thanks for joining us.
Thank you. I'll just be listening in today. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Okay, item 7 is an announcement, a possible date change for the June meeting. So I believe the June meeting is scheduled for June 8th, Saturday at 10 a.m. And I know that I have a conflict with that, and I believe that 2 of the other officers have a conflict with that as well. So I think in the executive meeting that we had in February, I think we talked about perhaps moving that meeting to, and correct me if I'm wrong, any officers, but I thought was June 22nd, also a Saturday. And I don't know if there was a time offered, maybe those of you that were at the executive, I missed that meeting. So maybe Alex or Jeff or Chris, if you have more to add to that.
I think
Go ahead, Alex.
I think we did discuss June 22nd and potentially just keeping it at the same time as we normally schedule meetings till 10 a.m.
Okay. So
we'll
yeah,
confirm that in May, like at our May executive meeting, we'll make a firm date and send out a notification about the date. So.
Okay.
Jeff, I'm sorry. This is Guy Sievert. I'm sorry, my Zoom audio was off and I couldn't speak up. But I do want to say a word about the RV sighting.
Okay, go ahead.
And I'm sorry when my Zoom ended up going out, so I'm not quite sure how Jeff totally described it. But in fact, the Planning Commission has had 2 hearings on 2 state laws that impacted accessory dwelling units, ADUs. One law allowed for ADU structures to exist, and of course, that's something that's the county's been trying to do, and a lot of folks have been trying to do for a long time, and it's finally been approved through the legislature. And Tillamook County is just, at least the Planning Commission has now gone through the ordinances that comply with the state law for ADUs. In addition, there was a separate bill this legislative session that allowed for RVs to be cited as ADUs. And from what I heard just before I got locked out here was that Jeff was talking about that. We had 2 here, and as I said, we had 2 hearings on the ADUs. It was mostly centered around the RV issue, and a lot of discussion about the safety of the use of a RV as a permanent ADU, given the fact that it's described in everything that we have as a temporary housing. So we finally, at this past Thursday, the Planning Commission recommended approval we made a lot of changes to the ordinance. We think will add some safety and some other kinds of things, direction in terms of how an RV can be used. We made a number of changes to it. We recommended it to the county commissioners. I understand, Doug may know more, but I think the community development is going to ask for an extension and push out the hearing for the commissioners to review our recommendation. A lot of discussion, a lot of concern. We are bound by what the state law says at a minimum. So I think the county has done the best it can to, certainly the Planning Commission, the best they can to apply the law and make it as safe as we can. So thanks.
Thank you. Thank you, Guy. Okay, let's see, date change. Another announcement, item 8, nominations are open for the positions of vice chair and treasurer, 2 officer positions. And those elections will be in the June meeting. If it does end up being the June 22nd, that's when they would be. And then the next bylaws committee also will be voted on in June. And then any interested parties should contact the info@nescoandcac.org. Open to folks who are interested in any of those slots. Be elected in June.
Can I add any some detail to that?
Sure. Sure.
Yeah. So if everyone should know that like, and correct me if I'm wrong, guys, that Alex and Chris are planning to return. But if you would like to run against Alex or Chris, you're certainly welcome to. And you should send an email to info@nescoandcac.org with a personal statement that we'll post on the website so that everyone who is running can, like, the people can read their personal statements and see what they think about who they want to vote for, et cetera, so on. And same for if you are interested in serving on the bylaws committee. My understanding is most of the people on the bylaws committee are planning to come back. There's 7 slots, so definitely there's room for at minimum 1 more person and perhaps a few more. And again, like anyone, like it's open to anyone. So if you've been watching what they've been doing and thinking like I want to get on that, then like same thing, send an email to info@nescoandcac.org with a personal statement about why you want to be on the bylaws committee.
So just a question, is there a date that those statements, we'd like to have those by, Jeff, or?
Let's see. So, and I'm going to go aside. Nominations, like the process is that if you can show up at the meeting in June and nominate yourself that day,
that's true.
But that doesn't seem like the best way to get the most votes. And I would say that, like, yeah, we haven't set a deadline yet, but I would say a week before a week before the June meeting. But the earlier you send it out, the more chances people will have to read your statement, and the more times people will see your name. So if you're interested in doing this, like, throwing your hat in the ring earlier is better than later. So
yeah, okay. Okay. All right. Let's see. The next announcements, seeking a communications coordinators. And Jeff, this is for you. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I don't, like, some of you, like, because we've been talking about the bylaws so much, you may have actually been reading the bylaws recently, and you may know that we have an official position in the bylaws that are active right now for a communications coordinator, who is someone who helps maintain the website and helps send out emails and helps run Zoom meetings. And in the proposed new bylaws that we're hoping to adopt in May, we have expanded that so that we can have a whole team of communications coordinators because we've had way more meetings this year than in previous years by a factor of like 10, because we have these really, really active committees, and we have a lot of communications to do. So if you have, like, looked at our website that I can make a website better than that, like I could do a better job than that, I bet you can. So raise your hand, send me an email at info@nescoandcac.org. If you think that you can make our emails prettier, I bet you can, because our emails are ugly, because I am not good at making things pretty. Again, raise your hand. This is a great way to, like, help the NCAC work better. Our objective is that we would really like over time to build like a whole group of people who have these skills, so that when I go on vacation, like I did last week, it's not like a crisis where like everything grinds to a halt in terms of communication. You don't have to be a technical wizard. You just have to not be afraid of Zoom. Like if you don't know how to use Squarespace, because you probably don't, it's okay. I can teach you. Maybe you can figure it out better than I know how to do it. So this is this is a great way to help the NCAC work better. And we're not looking for it to take over your life. We're just looking for more people to be able to contribute to making the website pretty and being able to help run Zoom meetings so that there's more people who can do that, and it's not all falling on a few people's shoulders. So I'm looking forward to hearing from you.
And I would just add, I hope some folks are interested in this, because Jeff is tremendously busy with all the communications doing it himself. He's done a wonderful job, and it's been a lot. So anyways. Okay, item 10. Now this is community discussion, and the question is, how should we conduct hybrid meetings? So this came about from a conversation actually with the Community Plan Steering Committee, and they're wanting, and rightfully so, to do a hybrid meeting so that it's a dual. There's in-person meetings, and also you can attend via Zoom. And I'm noticing that we've got a couple of them scheduled, the 17th and the 20th, for the first hybrid meetings for the Community Plan Steering Committee. But it was just I don't know, we wanted to see how folks felt about that, and if they have any comments about it, any concerns about it, if they've experienced that before, now's the time to have a bit of a discussion. And I'll also invite Randall and Lori, any members of the Community Plan Steering Committee, to speak up if I think you're going to be the first ones to do the hybrid meeting. So if you have any comments or anything to add to this, that would be wonderful. So
yeah, we really would like to get people in a room talking about this and getting more dialogue. Zoom does function in that way, but people in a room sharing the subject matter, we think, will be stimulating for conversation and dialogue. So that's what we're trying to get going, especially regarding these values statements, which I think everyone will have an idea of whether they agree or not, and then possible improvements. So that's our emphasis in starting the hybrid meetings, is to get interaction on a live basis and have the Zoom element there. Managing it will be a bit of a challenge, but I think with 3 or 4 of us, we can manage the chat, manage the live discussion. We'll see how well we do on the 17th, but that's the goal.
Can I
ask you? Oh, go ahead, Jeff.
Well,
go ahead.
You can go first, but I wanted to
Okay.
have some comments too. So
okay, I was just wondering. I guess I don't know, Randall. Are you? And this is a question at the hybrid meeting. So if you are Zooming to the hybrid meeting, sometimes they'll have a screen where you would see your face as you're talking via Zoom. Are you? Are you going to have that? Just a question: is that going to be a possibility for the Zoom meeting or not?
Well, Sarah might be able to help here, since she's done this before and I have not. We do have a big screen TV there that has a HDMI cord connection. So theoretically, we could have the Zoom members, when they speak, show up on the screen. Is that the way it works, Sarah?
Thank you, Randall. Yes, it is. So I have an owl. So I have an owl that will help so everyone can see each other. People online will be able to see people in the room, and vice versa. If you have a TV with an HDMI setup, then we'll use the TV. If not, I actually also have a small projector, so we could put the screen on a wall. So the projection on a wall. So yes, we will be able to be interactive with one another. Basically, we just need Wi-Fi, and I can bring everything else.
Okay. Well, the clubhouse is where we've selected because it has Wi-Fi and the fire hall does not, as I understand it. So if we reach capacity at the clubhouse, I was going to try and call Michael Schlichting this morning about his gallery space because that can probably take more like 60. But I haven't asked him yet, so don't count on that.
Yeah, okay.
The
Okay.
other
Okay.
option, Randall,
Okay.
if we get a bunch of folks wanting to attend in person, which would be great, we can always reach out. It's a bit of a drive, but we could reach out to the Kiwanda Community Center. I have meetings
Sure.
there a lot, and I also have meetings at the Hebo Fire Station, and they're very gracious about letting us do that with no cost. So we can, if we need a bigger space, it sounds like we've got some good options, both in
Right.
Nescoin and close by.
Nescoin Valley School also in the center is a nice
Okay.
place, and that's close by. So
Yeah.
yeah, between the three options locally, I think we should be able to manage. And I'd love to have capacity issues. I think that would be great if we had capacity issues, and we'll adjust as required.
Jeff?
Okay, yeah, so I just wanted to like add some thoughts and kind of prompt some questions, because really the reason we put this on the agenda is we wanted to hear from members of the NCAC about how they felt about this, because we have at least two competing interests. That the reason we're trying these hybrid meetings is the community plan steering committee members really felt like there's a value in discussing matters of community, sitting in a room together, like looking each other in the eye, like having natural conversations. But at the same time, we have many members of this community who are not in Nescoin on any given week, like Wednesday or Saturday, and they need to be able to participate in the process too, and it needs to be fair. Like everybody's like participation in this community plan process and in the meeting needs to be equally valid. Like everyone needs to feel like they're a full participant, and like we wanted to just put it out there, like and ask people, especially people who might be zooming in, if like, what is important to you to feel like you are a full participant, and do you have like, will you feel left out if the people in the room are kind of having an in the room conversation, and you're kind of listening in, or do you feel the need for a lot of structure so that the people in the room are participating basically like almost as if they were on Zoom? Do people have feelings about this, about what they feel like would be fair and the right way to hold a meeting like this? And maybe you've never thought about it, but maybe I'm poking you in the brain and you have some thoughts. So going once,
Yeah,
going
so,
twice.
I'll speak.
Well, let me
Yeah.
just read, or Alex, maybe, I think there's some comments there, but
Hi, Mark. Yeah, I was just
Yeah.
Bill Bush. Well, first, Alex said big shout out to Jeff and the other Zoom experts. Bill Bush mentioned that there was some Wi-Fi in the fire hall, and I did respond and say, well, there is some Wi-Fi. It's not the most reliable, particularly getting into the bay where we'd have to host the meeting. So it would be it would be a close option, but we might not want to rely on that if we're trying to launch these hybrid meetings.
And Nancy and Michael Beachley are both kind of waving their hands. I don't know who was first.
Okay.
Nancy, go ahead.
Yeah.
Thank you. Michael and I may be saying the same thing, I don't know, but in the bylaws, we actually addressed hybrid meetings as well, and in our proposal, and we feel that they need to be equal, where the people who are on the Zoom side have equal access to the conversation as people who are in the room physically. And so I'm really interested in hearing how this goes. I know Sarah has mentioned a number of times that she has the equipment, which reassures me. So I think it'll be interesting to try this with these 2 meetings coming up, and I appreciate the care everybody's taking to set that up.
Nancy.
Michael,
and
did you have
I-
a comment?
Yeah, Nancy and I have an uncanny ability to say the same things right after each other. We're moving into a new paradigm in the world in terms of meetings, and we're all still learning how to do this. And it's very capable, it's very meaningful, and it just means that we deal with each other a little bit differently. It requires that somebody watches comments and chats so that people can speak up and not be afraid of it. I think it's a marvelous way to do it. The only thing is that it does require some structure. That's all. More than just sitting around and chatting with each other. Just a little bit of structure is required, and people will get into the flow quite easily. And I have no problem with it at all. I think it's a great idea.
Okay, thank you, Michael. A couple other comments, maybe, Alex.
You're muted, Alex.
Thank you. Sarah mentions that Guy has participated in hybrid meetings for planning commission, so he could potentially share some experiences. And Brenda echoed the sentiment that it is not difficult to effectively manage online meetings, just some skill and organization, and welcome to the 21st century.
Yes.
Guy, I don't know. Guy, do you have any comments about the hybrid meetings you've been involved in?
If your audio is working.
Yeah, well, I understand. I think as people have said, we're in a new world today, and the advantage, of course, of hybrid is that people who would not be able to attend for various reasons attend an in-place meeting can attend. It's not ideal in the sense of how meetings are conducted, but it is ideal in terms of participation. So I don't. I yearn for the old days when we were all in one room and we could talk to each other and look at each other. And when we voted, we had to kind of stand up for our vote, literally. But those days are gone. So I just think we adapt. I think and it's inevitable that there's going to be technical issues. I know Sarah could speak to this. I mean, we still have an occasional technical issue that is kind of. We just had that night where we had our system. Just got to.
Hey, Guy, it's a bit difficult to hear you. I think what maybe I was hoping for was, do you feel like you've been able to actively participate in meetings being online? Like there is structure, but you've been able to hear people, you've been able to interact with other planning commission members, et cetera, from participating online versus being in the room.
Yeah, I don't. Can you hear me? I'm sorry.
That's better.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Can now.
Well, okay. Well, anyway, yeah, no, I've done both with the planning commission, both online and in person. I much prefer in person. And I know the planning commissioners have all said that if at all possible, we do it in person. It's just better, in my mind, a better quality of discussion and participation when you're there. Certainly for the commissioners and what we're doing. I think in terms of the CAC meetings, it's about participation more than just a few people making a decision. So I think it's hybrid has to be available and has to work for us at the CAC. So, and I think I was trying to say too that the system, as Sarah knows, I mean, we even there's always technical glitches. Yeah. And Thursday night we had a technical glitch where our system froze up, and we still had audio but no video, which we were still able to get by. But just have to expect those things.
Thanks, Guy, I would say the same thing. As a school board member, we do hybrid meetings actually quite often now, and there are some technical glitches from time to time. Guy's right about that, but it does allow for people to participate, hear the conversation, and weigh in on the conversation. So, anyways, having done those, I have seen those work. You know, given that there may be some technical difficulties. So, I don't see any other comments. If there's any other comments, now's a time to make that. If not, we'll move on to the item 11. I don't see any. So, okay. So item 11 is Community Plan Steering Committee update. And Randall, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank
I'm
you.
gonna,
Oh,
Or,
go
I'm
ahead.
gonna,
okay.
yeah, I was gonna take that.
Okay. It's Lori, sorry.
I'm Lori Kovac, and I'm a member of the Nestwin Community Plan Steering Committee. Many of you know this information, but I'm just going to get it out there so that anyone who's new to the meeting will hear it. We've been tasked by the county to review the current Nestwin Community Plan. So we're not starting from scratch. We're reviewing the plan that exists now, and we're to revise it to reflect current concerns and conditions. The committee is working to engage as many community members as possible in the conversation about what's important to Nestwin and how we can work with the county to achieve our goals. We're hoping that the community can have a dialogue that results in a plan that strengthens the community identity and guides the county effectively in making choices that support the community priorities. In an effort to foster conversation, we will be inviting participation in person and via Zoom, as we just discussed, in a hybrid meeting as often as we can. All community meetings will be available by Zoom, and many will be hybrid, we hope, if it works. Reports summarizing the community plan revision process will be made at each of the NCAC general meetings until the adoption by the county, but the actual process of revising the plan and getting your thoughts heard are best in the community meetings. Community feedback meetings begin this week and continue through the summer, each meeting focusing on a different aspect of the plan. Our first meetings will focus on discussion of each current value in the plan and determining if it remains valid or needs to be revised. And today we're going to have a straw poll at each of the NCAC general meetings that help us with our planning for the next series of meetings or process in the plan. In today's straw poll, we ask for your initial feedback about each of the current values. This is in no way a final vote on the issues or on the values. It's just a way to get an initial first impression on where the emphasis needs to be for discussion in our upcoming meetings. There's 10 values to vote on, and we would like you to respond to each one, and we're going to give enough time for you to, I don't know, I think we planned like a minute or 2 minutes per question, with a range of agreeing, disagreeing, need more information. You'll see what the choices are, and also to option to just not respond. If you would answer every question, it would be helpful so that we know that we have a full response, what you intended. So if there's any questions, I'm happy to answer. Otherwise, I think Jeff can start with the poll.
Okay, I'm gonna press go.
This is Tom Perhotted. Since I made this mistake before, don't just answer the first question and submit it. They're all there together.
Yeah, you have to scroll.
This is Heidi. How do I get back to it? I made the same mistake Tom did.
Let's see. I think if you accidentally submitted, I don't know if we can
Oh.
get you back. So
Okay.
sorry.
Jeff, I didn't accidentally submit it. This is Tom again, but I can't find it now, so.
It might be hiding behind another window or something.
Yeah.
And Lori, I see your lips moving, but you're muted. Maybe
Is
that's
there a way for somebody to email us and ask for a copy of the poll that they could fill out after the fact if they have somehow technologically not been able to
so
figure this
if they
out?
send an email to info@nescoandcac.org, I will forward it to you and then you can send them.
Okay.
I found mine.
Okay, good.
There's a below it says polls quizzes. That's where it was.
Is it just 7 questions or?
That's
all I
correct.
see?
7
Okay.
questions.
Okay.
So I want to ask if anyone is still working because I haven't seen any changes for a while.
What's the response rate so far, Jeff?
So 21 of the 24 people who can participate have participated, and a few people, like 3 people, maybe had the problem where they submitted after just the first question by accident or something, and so for 2 through 7, 18 people have answered. So, but
if you're on a phone, Jeff, how do they do that?
they can't. That's why we have 28 people but only 24 can. So it's
okay. So the people on the phone could email info,
right,
and get a thing, because I think it's important that we get as many as we can.
So since no one said that they're still working, I'm gonna end the poll.
Okay, thank you.
And I will share the results so you can look at them and talk about them, and then I'll get screenshots while you're talking about it.
Oh, great. All right, well, that's very helpful to see that people feel those values are still holding up for them 24 years later. That's pretty impressive of the plan to have held up in all those areas for so long. And that helps us in our work. Any other comments about the poll, Lori or Guy?
But does this mean we don't
Well,
have to
that's-
edit anything?
Well, no, it isn't that just the response to the first one? Can you see the response to the other questions?
No, it was all
If
of
you
them.
scroll.
Oh,
Oh,
If you
that's
scroll,
all.
yeah.
yeah.
Oh, if you scroll.
down.
Oh, I'm sorry. I
Yeah,
was being
yeah.
dense.
Okay, well, that
So
is.
I
Well-
guess my question would be, do we need to find out if there's values that are not here that people think should be here?
Well,
Well,
that was our. Go ahead.
that's next. So
Okay.
Okay.
we've lined out meetings through May and the new, so the process of determining new values partially has to do with what Nesquin, what Nesquin wants to be and what values would inform getting there. So those will be the more challenging meetings to, the committee will offer some opportunities, like say, let's take the watershed. So Nesquin is a place where we have clean, potable water in a secure environment that we know is stable for the long term. It could be more succinct than that. So that value would drive securing and purchasing the watershed, so we know we have control over the area where our clean drinking water comes from. So that process of determining who we want to be or who we are and which values would help drive that is really critical, because you can't really pass a recommendation if you don't have a value that supports it. So that will be the challenge, but this whole process will be trying to engage the public in the Nesquinites to come out and talk about what they want their community to be and how much, say, in this situation, the current values do stand for how they feel about the village and this community, and how the county and state and feds would look at the community in any particular situation. So there's work to be done, but this was a very helpful first start. And the meeting on Wednesday at 7 will be looking at any revisions, just even in the wording of these, that might improve it or make it more contemporary. So I'll leave it at that. Lori?
Okay.
Or Guy? Tom?
Oh, good.
That I
Tom,
just
you're muted. Still muted. Or you're not muted, but we do not hear you. So something is amiss. So Tom had something to say, but we don't know what it is.
Okay.
Didn't write it in the chat, Tom?
And while Tom is writing in the chat, I'm just going to make the observation that I think it's interesting that item 3, the place where the environment and beauty of the natural setting is prized, like, was the one where the agreement was like strong, like the signal was clear as day. And even like, I mean, not that we had a lot of ambiguity in these results, but I think we saw that in the little straw poll I did when we were forming the committee, and I think that's an important thing for the steering committee to take into account, that like the people of Nesquin like really care about the environment a lot, and that wants to be front and center. So
yeah. I would just like to say, can you hear me or am I muted?
We can
Yeah,
hear you.
we can hear you.
Okay, I just would like to say that I'm looking forward to these in a really positive way. I think it's exciting that people are going to get together and just talk about what they hope that the community is going to be, because we've had, you know, it seems like we've had so much people in their own little silos talking to each other. And I'm really hoping that this is a time for us all to relax and say, we are what we are. Let's see what we want to be in the future. And like we were talking about, just have a dialogue and a conversation. I think it could be this really exciting, pleasant thing to look forward to every meeting. I hope that it's that. That's my Pollyanna view.
And we have a comment in the comment section from Tom Seep, who mentions it is important for the committee to hear from people who disagreed with the questions.
Yeah, that's why we put it out here for people to comment on. They can have
Well,
their own ability to respond.
And to come to the meetings and tell us
come to the
why.
meeting. Right.
Yeah, and how we could devise it so that it feels good to them, works for them. They can agree with it.
So can I ask, I think I know the answer to this, but if folks want to email the steering committee, maybe they can attend the meeting, maybe they can't stay the whole time, maybe they can do that at any time, correct? With comments?
I think that's just info at NCAC.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
The,
But they can, yeah, okay.
Bylaw, Nancy wanted to set up a special email for bylaws, and that's been pretty useful. So if you want to do the same, we can do the same. But if you don't, I will forward anything we get to you. So
Can I make a comment?
Sure.
Yeah, Michael. Yeah.
I just want to back up Tom's comment a little bit. Sometimes it's difficult for people who have a different idea. Sometimes if it's a negative idea, to speak out. But I think it's meaningful to encourage them to write a note or a comment rather than to speak out in public, and at least get their comment on the record.
Well, this is Guy, Mark. Again, these questions are based on the values that were written in 1999 and 2000 and approved in 2001. So it's not like the committee said, let's make up some questions. I mean, and as I think Lori and Rand said, we're going to be exploring other values and what this community wishes to move forward to and become in the future. I mean, that's going to be, and I agree with Lori that it's ideally if people can come to a place, if there's a choice that they can make, and I know some people don't have a choice. To me, if they can come and participate together in the same room, that would be ideal. If not, I mean, the next thing and better than nothing is, of course, participating online, so we can at least hear people's opinions and they can hear the discussions.
Okay, any other comments before we move on?
It looks like Nancy has her hand up.
Okay, Nancy.
Thank you. I think it might be helpful in the future polls to have a comment line, not necessarily after every question, but maybe at the end to be able to, say a little bit more about why you had a certain vote.
Yeah.
We talked about that, and I think Jeff had an opinion about managing that.
We can totally have add a comment question, like a free form comment question. That's not a problem.
Yeah.
I think on that note, there's a comment in the chat from Karen Buza mentioning that dissenting comments are better with context. I hope people share. So that's always nice to see, when you see just one person disagreeing or two people disagreeing, it's always more helpful for the committee and everyone to know maybe what the context of that disagreement is and why.
Yeah. Okay. All right, last item, last item really for the day is a presentation from the bylaws committee of the draft updated bylaws. And Nancy, I assume you're going to be walking us through that.
Yeah, I think the committee members that are here today will be joining me with that.
Help
Can I
out, yeah,
have,
okay.
looks like I can share my screen, so let me do that. Can everybody see the screen? So all of these documents were placed in the meeting file, and thank you, Jeff, for the emails that you sent out about it over a week ago. So everyone's had a chance. I've updated this one slightly. But what we're going to do is just go through some introductory slides for people who haven't been following the process all that closely, and then go into the key bylaws amendments. So I just want to introduce our committee. Wyatt Angelo is actually doing fire training today. Michael Beachley is our scribe. Bill Miller is at what his granddaughter's sports event. Susan Schoenberg is a valuable contributor. Tom Sipe is our editor extraordinaire, and me. And then Sarah Absher has been an incredible advisor to our committee, participating on a regular basis, both in our meetings and outside, so that we've been able to go make sure that we're okay with the county as we go along. So we've been meeting as a full subcommittee twice a month, the first and third Fridays of the month at 9:30. We had a special meeting last month. And since we were elected in July or August, I can't remember. But members are invited to attend, and we have a comment period provided. We also post our committee documents and meeting videos. You can see any past ones in the archive section of the website. Thank you, Jeff, again. And we have been having regular attendance amongst some of the members. So our goals and really our principles are to review and reformat and revise the bylaws entirely to provide some clarity, functionality, and fairness. And one of our guiding principles is to provide that kind of clarity. We're also going beyond Oregon public meeting law, I think, in terms of transparency. Our documents are available everywhere, and we've had feedback sessions for people to be able to respond in a more informal manner. Our organization is around Robert's Rules of Order, newly revised, and it provides sections on how bylaws are produced and organized. So we've restructured the existing bylaws around that structure. And a lot of the rules that we're recommending in the bylaws come out of Robert's Rules recommendations. They're standard for things like quorum, setting up meetings, voting, etc. We've also focused on inclusivity. So we want to have a member voice and fair and clear representation of our members in all aspects of the NCAC. So in that, we've worked hard to make sure that members are represented fairly. We want to make sure that people who are currently members are still able to be members. We've been able to clarify how people can qualify for membership, which Tom will be going through later, assuming he can get his microphone working. And then also putting in some limits to avoid having one business or home or whatever have unfair representation. We've had lots of participation in the process through our bylaws committee meetings. We do have the email that was just mentioned. Anyone can send us comments, and many have, to ncacbylaws@gmail.com. If you don't have that handy, you can also send it to info, and Jeff will forward it to us. And then we've had our 9 bylaws feedback meetings. So we started working in August, and we kind of tackled things looking at what did we want to accomplish. We defined a process. We numbered existing bylaws. This was largely due to Tom Sipe, who has an amazing resume working on the IEEE 802.11 Wi-Fi standards and also Bluetooth standards. So we have he's just fabulous. Mapping to Robert's Rules of Order format, editorial changes, and then Tom created a document naming standards, which you'll see sometimes on our documents, although we've tried to simplify that a little bit. We've set up a document management repository that has every iteration, every revision of every type of document in it, so you can travel back and see as things evolved. And then move to substantive review. And we moved to that in October after we presented to this meeting and got an okay from all of you to proceed. So in the substantive review, each bylaws article was reviewed by 1 or 2 subcommittee members. And then the full committee would discuss the proposals in subcommittee meetings with initial votes. And then when we got done with that, we held 9 feedback sessions with membership and revised the drafts with the great input that we got from our members. Along the way, as I mentioned, we've been working with Tillamook County in parallel with the bylaws development. So hopefully there won't be any surprises when we send the bylaws for formal approval by the county. And thanks again for Sarah, and also Commissioner Olson has attended a number of our meetings as well and feedback sessions, and we appreciate his being interested as well. We've created a draft of the resulting bylaws revision for review by the membership today. And I think, I don't know if any of you have looked at that, but we have, and also have a listing of amendments and a brief summary of amendments for review, which we'll go through today. So the approval process at this point, we have posted the proposed bylaws and amendments. We are going to review the changes today and make updates as appropriate. We're going to meet on next Friday to go over the results of this meeting and prepare our bylaws for submission to Tillamook County for approval. And then we'll hold a special membership meeting to adopt the bylaws on Saturday, May 11th via Zoom. I hope you all can attend. That's going to be more formal, where people can do formal motions to amend a section or not. And so Michael Beachley is going to do a parliamentary procedures training at 9:40 a.m. And he has put a great parliamentary procedures summary on the website in the archive section. It's really great. And then the actual meeting begins at 10. So lots of opportunities to, and we will have the approval from Tillamook County, hopefully with any changes necessary before we have that membership meeting. Once that is done, and actually we've already started on it, we'll expand the bylaws with more detailed information in a whole new section called policies and procedures. I'll go into say more expansion on duties of officers, committee information, et cetera. They're more easily modified. They also will have public input, and they also must be approved by the membership, but not quite as much. So we just want to acknowledge the community members that have participated in these. We're just extremely grateful because our bylaws, as a result of your comments, have really improved things. And so just going to list a few of the people, and I hope I haven't missed anybody, but Tom Perhadich, Barbara Triplett, Bill Bush, Hillary Gibson, Roger Wolfshorn, or I think I got the wrong name there, it's Roger's last name, Liz Vitale, Guy Sievert, and then all the officers have also participated along the way. So really appreciate all that. So now we're going into the actual amendments, and rather than going into the document itself. So we're going to start right off with Article 3, which is the one that has caused quite a bit of consternation over, but we think we've got a great proposal for the member section of the bylaws. Article 1 is the name, didn't change. Article 2 is the basically the object of the organization or the mission, and it was slightly reworded, but there was no significant change. So I'm going to call on Tom Sipe to see if he can present Article 3. Are you available? Can you speak, Tom? Sounds like he may still be having technical difficulties. So I'll go ahead and cover it. I think there's something in the chat.
Guy Sievert asks, why does the county have to approve our bylaws?
Okay, so I will defer that to Sarah, but my understanding is that we are established by the county, and so the county controls everything that we do. And Sarah, would you like to answer that question?
Sure, I can. Thank you. Good question, Guy. So the CAC is an advisory body to the county. So similar process with the Tillamook County Planning Commission. I have to run all bylaw updates through county council before they are brought back to the body for approval and adoption. So just like we've been working on the Planning Commission bylaw updates over the years, and I vet those through county council, the same process happens here because these are both county appointed bodies.
Thank you, Sarah.
Sorry, can I?
Oh, sure.
I think
Are
maybe
you
it's
there?
better. Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
I'm sorry. And it's better. I think I can carry this on offline. I have a little different view, but I can talk with you and Sarah. We don't need to do this online.
If you want to send me an email, Guy, but just to make
Okay.
sure that the CAC membership is not confused, this is a county appointed advisory body. As you're aware, there's a board order that appoints these CACs. And
Right.
because they are part of the county, the bylaws and the function of this CAC just fall under county review. So the Board of County Commissioners do not have to adopt the bylaws, but because this is a county appointed advisory body, I do have to run them through county council.
So they're not being approved by the county.
That is, their county council has to sign off on them, just like they do for the planning,
Right.
the planning commission. But
So
there is
maybe
no formal process to bring them forward to the Board of County Commissioners.
for approvals, and that may be one of it. And also just to establish that the CACs are advisory to the county, but they're also advisory to other organizations. It's not, the CACs have other purposes other than to advise the county.
I would
on issues.
disagree with that, Guy. They can if that is something that the county allows for. But again, not to avoid confusion today in this meeting, if you would
Right,
like
I'm
a more
sorry.
detailed explanation, I'm happy to give that to you
That's
later.
fine. That's why I thought we better
Thank
do
you
it
so
offline.
much. Thank
And
you.
I will say, Guy, that Article 2 on object, which is the mission, has not changed in any significant way at all, just grammatically a little bit. Okay,
I
so back.
I logged off and logged back on. Is my
Oh, good. You're there, Tom. Okay, take it
I
away.
like being here. Okay, as mentioned, this was probably this was our most controversial change to the bylaws. We had three real things that we talked about. The area that actually comprises our village and our community, who is a member, and what member rights are. Okay, so the area was previously vaguely defined, and we understand it was vaguely defined on purpose. Many of us wanted to have some more concrete areas defined. We went back and forth, and as last count, there were 24 iterations of a proposed boundary for membership. The one we finally settled on was the Nesquin watershed, which kind of speaks to our comment earlier in the planning committee that watershed might be something we'd be interested in having as our values. Enough of that. So that's we finally did get basic consensus on that. It was not unanimous by any means, but it was substantial. The member definitions, that was fairly controversial. The motive behind putting a limit on the number of people who could vote per property was the idea of making sure we had fairness. Different sides wanted to make sure that the other side and I'm not going to identify the sides, wouldn't have an undue advantage because they could pile up numbers. So we initially all agreed with about a 94% agreement on 2, but the county said no. And we, through Sarah's undying advocacy for us, we got that to 4. So there is a limit on any particular property of 4 persons in that category type. And also no one can vote more than once. It is individuals who vote, not properties who vote. And then we also, in the member rights, we clarified that voting eligibility is done on the honor system. We're not an enforcement body. We are only advisory, and we would have no way of enforcing anything. So we're not going to try.
Thank you, Tom. So for this article, we had 2 feedback sessions and got quite a bit of clarification. And there was a question in the chat from Johnny Bloom about why do people who are not residents have equal votes? And that was actually something that came out of the polls that we did in the meetings and the comments, and that people actually voted to have equal representation. So any further questions on Article 3? Okay, I just have to give a huge shout out to Tom and to Wyatt for wrestling with Article 3 and to all of the members that attended and gave feedback on this area. Okay, Article 4, officers. Michael, do you want to take a crack at this?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you very much, Nancy, and thank you all of you for coming. This is an auspicious gathering, and good on you for being here. Article 4 has to do with officers, and what we did in reviewing this particular article is to look at the structure and expand the identification of those positions, and we added 2 new positions that are important for the organization, and articulated some methods by which we will elect those individuals. The 4 officers that everyone would expect are the chair, the vice chair, the secretary, and the treasurer. The jobs and the duties of those positions were articulated much greater and simplified, and given the opportunity to expand to involve other individuals as well. So the chair does what you would expect the chair to do: to conduct meetings, be the official spokesperson, coordinate the officers' actions. The chair is involved in filling positions in the various subcommittees, and so on and so forth. Incidentally, I'll remind you that since the NCAC is a committee, all other heretofore committees are now subcommittees, because we do report to the advice committee. The vice chair.
Actually, let me just interrupt you for a minute, Michael. The chairperson is actually deferring appointments to the subcommittee members will actually be elected. So that's a change.
And I mean that they are involved in identifying potential candidates, and so I'll get to that. The vice chair supports the chair in the chair's absence and assists the chairman and chairperson and all other officers as needed. The secretary is a difficult position, as you can imagine, because it all of the little business activities of the organization have fallen on that person, and we felt that it was important to make it possible for other people to be involved in serving the organization through the activities that the secretary did. So the secretary is responsible for, but not necessarily going to exercise all of those things about financial reports and emails and attendance and minutes and so on and so forth, but at least be responsible in a clearinghouse for those activities. All of those articulations are very standard in the industry, so that'll be unsurprising for people. The treasurer's position are articulated in ways that are not surprising at all. But we did add an immediate past chairperson with responsibilities to advise the chair and to assist in the transition of new officers. The whole idea, of course, is transition and the corporate knowledge, the historical knowledge of the organization, so that there's not a huge abrupt change that causes difficulties. And we added the position of parliamentarian. That's articulated by the word may rather than shall. We may have a parliamentarian if one is available, and it's an important position for the purposes of procedures and itself. As a parliamentarian for most of my life, I won't even begin to tell you how many decades, but there is an ethic amongst parliamentarians that we stay out of argument. Our task is specifically to be neutral, to be of assistance, to help in procedural issues, and so on and so forth. The parliamentarian will attend regular NCAC regular meetings and the executive board and give advice on parliamentary procedure when we're requested. Also, I am available for comment or advice to any member of the organization, and my advice is confidential. So I could be used by any of you if you choose to seek out some advice on those issues. The parliamentarian has all of the rights and privileges of membership. The parliamentarian is an ad hoc position of the executive board, but it is also indicated in the bylaws that the parliamentarian is a non-voting member of the executive board, even though the parliamentarian is a voting member of the NCAC general membership. That's not unusual because that allows the parliamentarian to be neutral on issues that are raised. If the parliamentarian, by the way, wants to make a motion as a member of the organization or wants to be involved in debate for any issue that arises, it is important and instructed that the parliamentarian will relinquish the position for that part of the discussion and activities of any particular meeting. And another person will be appointed for as ad hoc or interim person for that activity. We're blessed to have Nancy Vandell as a backup for that in the current activities, and Nancy is an extraordinary denizen of parliamentary procedures. That's a really, really valuable position, and so you're not without those resources at all. The next part, section B, has to do with nominations and elections. We noted that the elections are going to be a little bit different. They're going to be held in April rather than May or June. And the purpose for that is to give the new office holders an opportunity to transition to their positions. Rather than just cut the line and start at ground zero. And we thought that that was an important transitional activity, and it is, again, not an unusual thing to occur. Nominations will be open in February for those positions, and any member of the NCAC is eligible to be nominated, and each member of the NCAC will be able to nominate themselves, of course. A task force will be appointed that will help in developing that list. We did have the comment or the word slate in original documents, and slate is a semantically loaded term. We dropped that one and replaced it with list. So that that list is alive and can grow until the actual voting occurs. The election will be conducted by the chairperson unless the chairperson is a candidate, in which case the vice chair will conduct that. In the case where the chair and the vice chair are not available for whatever reason, for example, they are no longer an officer or they are a candidate, then the parliamentarian will conduct that election. It's not a controversial activity. The outreach task force will present the list at the election meeting, and the nominations from the floor are accepted. And we noted that if nominations come from the floor, then that candidate must provide their own qualifications for office, and the qualifications for membership are already articulated in the bylaws. The voting will not be on the block unless there are an equal number or less of the positions being available. In other words, we will be voting on individuals for each position to be considered. If there's only one candidate for an office, a voice vote may be done. That is customary, and it just moves things along so that we can get our business done. And for a candidate to be elected, that candidate must receive a majority of votes. If no candidate receives a majority of votes, then a runoff will be conducted at the same meeting between two candidates receiving the most votes. So we can again move along. Officers will assume their positions on July 1st, but they may begin to plan for the next year as soon as the executive board and include budgeting and budget planning and commissions, committee preparations, and so on. The idea is to get them involved early so that they are on the ground running when the time comes. Section C of this article is terms of office. There are 2-year terms, but the terms are staggered. So the chair and the secretary are to be elected in odd number years, and the vice chair and the treasurer in even number years.
So no changes with that.
Pardon me?
No changes there.
Yeah, right. We did add removal from office, and that's a fairly simple process, but a 14-day notice must be given, and a vote of the membership of at least 2/3 may remove an officer from position either with or without cause, and that is your prerogative to do so, and that's so stated. Section E, vacancies, the last section in that article. Vacancies will be filled at the next regular membership meeting to complete the unexpired term of the officer being replaced. And that is pretty much it on officers.
Okay, thank you, Michael. We're now going to move on to Article 5 meetings, and we're really just talking about the proposed major amendments. So Susan, can you handle Article 5, please?
Sure. So just as a highlight, it's just the major proposed amendments, as Nancy said, that we're going to be highlighting. And in the meeting section, you heard earlier that the meetings will be held either virtually or hybrid. And the latter requires the ability to have real-time discussions among members who are attending electronically and in person. No solely in-person meetings are allowed. As far as membership meetings, you've heard earlier mention that the election of officers, we propose to take place at the April membership meeting, and that's a change from the current June. That will allow the new board to plan for the upcoming year. There is no change in term dates. The annual meeting will be the June meeting for the election of subcommittee members and budget approval. We've also clarified and outlined a way for members to be able to request agenda items to be added. We have split special membership meetings into 2 subsections. One is special and one is urgent.
Thank you, Susan. I want to just add that we're in a transition year this time. So even though the bylaws proposal will be approved hopefully in May, requiring an April election of officers. Obviously, this year we wouldn't be able to do that because the current bylaws state June. So for this year, there'll be a transition where the officers will be still elected in June.
So as far as quorums, we are proposing to increase the general meeting quorum from 8 to 15. And we feel that that's a reasonable number given today, for instance, there are 30 people that registered and dialed in. We propose setting a quorum of the majority of the members of the body for the executive board and subcommittee meetings. And we've also clarified in the motion section rights and limits for making motions in a meeting and how that takes place. Pardon me, voting. We've clarified how votes will be done and how they are recorded. We have guidelines for making motion for a roll call vote and when it must be made. We clarified that a member must be present to vote. Proxy voting is not allowed, and that's how it is currently in our current bylaws. We've added the recommendations made in the executive board as well as subcommittee meetings can be made by consensus as well as by majority vote. And we've also fleshed out how minority viewpoints may be submitted.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions on Article 5 meetings?
I have a question, Nancy.
Uh-huh.
And I may have missed it when Susan was explaining with regards to quorum for the general meetings rising from 8 to 15. What are your thoughts on if there is a meeting where, you know, say we're 2 years out in the future and all of our main work is done in terms of the community plan and there's no, you know, controversial or bylaws of interest, and we have a meeting scheduled where there's really nothing on the agenda that would get a lot of people to sign in, and we fall below 15. What do we do in that case?
We call and we get people to the meeting because you cannot conduct business. But the reason that we were increasing the meeting quorum is we did look at who's been coming to the meetings over the last couple of years, and it's usually well over the 15. And Robert's rules suggests 15 members for a body this size of ours. And for those who aren't familiar with quorum, it means it's the minimum number that have to be present to do business. So you could still do information only, but you would not be able to actually do business. Michael, I think, did you want to say something?
Yeah, you just said that the important point about Alex, and you can still have the meeting, you just cannot conduct business. And if it is, you know, and I understand that if everything's fine, all of the programs are completed, blah blah blah, then you want to get together, have a meeting anyway. That's perfectly fine. You just can't conduct business. If there is an issue that rises, then as Nancy mentioned, you better get out and shake the bushes and get those leaves going. Shake the trees, rake the leaves.
And I'd also like to follow up and say, I know Sarah Absher has shared with us that there are 908 residences in the Nescoin area. And we have a lot of potential members, and it's something that we think that we need to reach out to people and grow this NCAC. I don't see it declining. I see it as a lot of potential for opportunity to involve the residents and the non-residents in this.
Yeah, good point, Susan. I think that was also something that Tom will be discussing under the subcommittees and task forces, this outreach task force. We're looking at doing some of that along with trying to find officers and committee chairs and that, or committee members and that kind of thing. So
there's a natural limit on quorums. If nobody's interested, then there's really no reason to be conducting business. But if the executive group decides that there's something very important, the executive group is responsible for getting people to come and attend the business.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Any other questions about meetings, voting? Okay, I do want to clarify that on voting, we've had quite a bit of discussion about a roll call vote, which is where members put in their individual names and their vote for that name. And so the bylaws are very specific about that. If people don't ask for a roll call vote or make a motion for a roll call vote, then there will not be one made, and there will be the vote will be recorded by general numbers, but not by individual names. So, and we appreciate Sarah working on that aspect. Okay, executive board. So we have an entirely new article for executive board, creating an executive board, which I think Michael was mentioning under officers a little bit. And this is to allow the officers to meet, because we do operate under Oregon Public Meeting Law, and the NCAC meetings are every 2 months. So this allows the officers and committee chair people and appointed officers to meet and discuss business, to prepare for the upcoming meetings, to get more into detail about things like bylaws or community plan, for example. And so we're proposing monthly executive board meetings. And we're very pleased that the officers decided to start trying this in January. So there were meetings the first 3 months of the year, and there's one planned here on April, I think it's 3rd, I shouldn't guess. Anyway, but they're open to the membership to come to attend and comment and public comment as well. So it's all transparent. And Article 7, subcommittees and task forces. Tom, take it away.
Well, this is an example of the power of feedback sessions. Nancy and I had worked on that as a subcommittee and had it all nice and tidy. And work on a feedback session, we wound up just about scrapping the whole thing and rewriting it. So the major thing is that we've defined what a task force was. They were mentioned in the previous bylaws, but they weren't really defined. And since we had the pleasure of enduring the Oregon Public Meeting Law, we discovered that they were really inconvenient for doing workmanlike tasks. So the inspiration was to define things which don't really need to be as public as a subcommittee meeting as a task force. And we believe that that'll fly. We don't know that for sure, but basically the task forces are not subject to Oregon public. Basically, you don't want to have a public meeting about redesigning a web page or how to write an email. That's kind of silly. So the things which don't involve public policy, in other words, business, as Michael talked about it, then we're free to have those meetings just more or less at an ad hoc level and as we need them. And also although the bylaws committee was elected by the membership, just because I guess that was deemed to be important at the time, we do specify now that the subcommittee members are elected by the membership and that a application is recommended to have application information, as was talked about earlier, and task force members may be appointed by the executive board. So there's no formal approval process for task force members. I can't imagine voting on somebody who updates the website, but that's the decision we made. Next.
Thank you. And we said that with the support of the executive board, so of the officers. We appreciate that they're doing that.
Okay, so we had a nominations committee as one of the standing committees, although it was a little bit unclear it was a standing committee or the fact that it got dissolved after its first use. That got translated into an outreach task force with really kind of dual purpose. One is to outreach to membership, as Susan talked about, and also to reach it and those people who are in contact with the potential membership and the existing membership would be the best people to try to beat the bushes for candidates for office or committee membership. subcommittee membership. So that's a major change, that we deleted the nominations committee and have an outreach task force for that dual responsibility. We established, as Jeff mentioned earlier, a standing communications task force. Basically, that's used to be the communications coordinator, which was very tediously defined, but not exactly clear on how it would be implemented. The NCAC secretary is still responsible for all those duties. They just don't have to do it personally. And that's, and Jeff, I'm sure would love to have people join him in doing the wonderful things that he does. Very, very interesting things. All right. And then we specified how standing or ad hoc committees and task forces are established and the details of their operation. They're going to be in the PNP document. We hope to have a PNP document better fleshed out soon.
Which is policies and procedures.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. No, I should have put that in there instead of spelling it out.
Yeah. Okay, the bylaws subcommittee, we talked about ourselves. And we want to make sure that people understood that, yeah, we're going to think about it really hard. And we just want to make sure we weren't prevented from having our own suggestions. And we also have the idea that they need to be reviewed annually. That doesn't mean changed annually. That means we look at it and say, does this work, not work? Is there anything that really needs to change? Because we're taking a best guess at what the bylaws need to be and the communities. But we want to make sure that it remains appropriate. And the responsibility of the policies and procedures, you defined it there.
Yeah.
The PNP and how it'll update it. And that's in Article 10, which is basically a catch-all, has definitions and things which don't really fit anywhere else.
Okay. Thank you. Any questions on subcommittees and task forces? Okay, we'll have questions at the end too. And Michael, would you like?
Before we go on, there was a question that I did answer in the chat about what defines authorized in terms of voting, to way back in membership. And I answered that we believe that the property or owner or resident is responsible for determining who that is, and it's on the honor system.
Right. So basically, we are not going to be policing. We discussed that quite a bit and decided that we just we don't have the wherewithal to police, and nobody seemed to want to do that either. So thank you, Tom, very much. Michael, could you talk about our amending the bylaws section, Article 9?
Yes, thank you, Nancy. Bylaws should not be changed as often as people like. It's a document that should remain the same and solid and foundational and basic for as long as they work well. We will review them annually. That's one of the things that we have in there. And you should know that most changes in bylaws are really wording and grammar and so on, but occasionally there are additions and major changes to be reviewed. The issue for us always is going to be inclusion and transparency, inclusion really refers to your participation as critical members of the organization, and you may do so through a number of ways to get to the bylaws. You may propose bylaws changes if you like, but regardless of where the bylaws come from, the changes initiate. They will always be submitted back to the bylaws committee for review and discussion, and to make sure that they make sense and that they fit with what happens. And then they will come back with plenty of notice so that the membership can vote on it. As soon as they are voted on, they become active. And the big change on this one is that it will take 2/3 of the members voting to bring about change in bylaws. And that's another reason why we have, a significant quorum limitation, is so that there is enough people available to make a meaningful change. If you have any interest in changing bylaws, it is important for you to think about it way in advance, to write it out clearly, and to submit it, and to expect that there will be a good review on the part of the bylaws committee for consistency within the whole document and also clarity as well.
Thank you, Michael. Are there any questions about amending the bylaws? I will say that the current bylaws specify 50% plus one. So this will be a change after these bylaws are approved, but this is a 2/3 majority is recommended as standard by Robert's rules. The policies and procedures can be changed, as I mentioned earlier, much more readily. It's a simple majority in any meeting, so with some notice. So do you have any questions now? If you think of some, we have the actual bylaws are on the emails that Jeff has sent out there. You can get in and see the actual bylaws. You can also go in and see the more comprehensive list of amendments. The ones you saw today are a much briefer list of the really major ones because we didn't have a lot of time. But if you are interested in more, we would be happy to discuss any of this with you. We are asking that you please get any comments to us by the 17th so that we can discuss them at our bylaws committee meeting next Friday, the 19th, before submitting them to the county through Sarah for approval. I also want to say, again, Sarah has spent a lot of time on this. She has been attending our meetings. She has been talking to council, talking to the commissioners, and has done a lot to smooth the way for these bylaws to be adopted. And I just none of us can thank you enough, Sarah. So I'm going to stop sharing this, and then I'm just going to just very quickly show the actual bylaws so you get an idea of what they look like. So this is the draft. My husband looked at this and said, "What's this first page?" And I said, "Well, that's something that we do just to show what the changes are from the previous version." And you can see we're already on draft revision 11 on these, and I think we have a 12 that we'll be doing, but it shows when we last edited, etc. So these are the actual bylaws that you can see in the meeting folder for today. And we will be updating those. So you can see the full set of bylaws. We're now at 11 pages, but it's a very logical progression. So we value your input. We would love to have any questions, comments, or whatever. And again, we want to thank the people who have been attending. And it looks like Sarah has a comment. Oh, thank you, Sarah. She says it's been a great process. Thank you to the committee and the community for all of the great work and engagement. Yeah, it really has. This is an amazing committee, and we thank you. So let us know if you have any questions at all. We're happy to talk with you one-on-one about any of this as well.
I'll just share an observation I've made a number of times, and that is that this whole process, in my estimate, has brought this community together in marvelous ways, in clarity and being able to speak with each other and listening to each other. And it's a model about how this kind of activity can be done for unincorporated organizations.
Yes, thank you, Michael. I think our committee has been just absolutely remarkable, the various backgrounds people have brought. We also have to give a big shout out to Jeff because he has been our tech support through all of this and he's had to do a lot. So thank you.
And I thank you, Nancy, for that. And thanks for going over that. That was great. A few questions about it, but just to recap, I think the bylaws committee is meeting again on the 19th. And the 3rd again, and then
so on the 3rd we're hoping to
the
3rd I think we're hoping to have the answer back from the county regarding any comments they have, and we would make any adjustments necessary at that point. We're hoping we won't have any, and then we would take that final draft and put it out for the membership to review prior to the May 11th adoption meeting.
Okay. Okay. And that, yeah, May 11th. Okay. All right. Very good. Don't see any comments. Thank you to the bylaws committee. Wonderful work. So thanks.
Thank you.
I think we're at a point where we're, unless there's any other comments for the good of the order, we're at a point where we're ready to adjourn for the day. So any other comments? I don't see any. That'll do it for today. So I want to thank everybody for joining this morning, and lots of good stuff today. Just great work. Working together on behalf of Nesquin. So just a wonderful to see everybody, and a good meeting this morning. So thank you very much. And to everybody, have a good day. We'll adjourn.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mark. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Jeff.